Well, hello. Today we're going to take a look at what a prototype is. Maybe you have some, maybe you don't. So we're going to try to go from the beginning to kind of the finished product and a little beyond. Take a look at some prototypes and what is and what isn't, to me, a prototype. Alright, first off, I'm going to explain these. You'll see these pop up for sale, and usually they're labeled unspun or prototype. These are actually not a prototype. These are taken during production of the run. So this is during production, not a prototype. So what we typically start with a prototype would be the design. You'd have concept design art. This would be the old number 5. You can see there's a lot of concept art that they start with. These are all Bob Rosa's concept art. And they use this in promotions and such. But this is what they start with, is the concept. And for all intents and purposes, after the concept art is approved, then they start building the models. So, I've shown this collector's book before. It pretty much shows, this is kind of neat because it kind of shows like an introduction to how they come about with the Pepsi Challenger. Even though we all know that it was the Army Funny Car before it was a Pepsi Challenger. Anyway. But they give you little details on them taking measurements, doing the concept art. And then they try to build a wooden model scale. Then they scale it down to size. And they don't show that. Down to the production car that we have here at the end. Alright, next step after the wooden approval, they make a resin cast of it. This one happens to be the Purple Passion. So you can see this is just a chemical mixture. They pour it into a mold. It has the form to it. After these are approved, then they go into the hand-painted models. You see this one doesn't have the tires in it yet. Somebody added tires. After the model is approved, they will hand paint the resin to make it look like the production toy. You can see right here, this is solid, it's been painted. So this is all hand painted, and they will send this in for approval for the production model. That's what they do for all these. So sometimes you'll see a difference. This will appear on a poster or in a book. And you'll see it'll have different wheels on it, different color interior, different windshield. This is all hand painted, hand done. And they make these to send them in for approval for the production model. As you can see, sometimes these resin prototypes, they will do a few different versions of it So this is the concept that they had, they approved, took pictures of, put it on the 1999 new model poster. And then a little later, the decision was made to make them with the silver stripe on the bottom instead. So sometimes they change their mind, but a lot of times they'll release it in a hurry, and all these are prototypes. Any poster that you see usually has prototypes on them, hand painted or otherwise. So even in this collector's book, you can open it up and take a look for 1982. You'll see there's blue windows on that, front running Fairmont. Same with the Landlord, that Jeep that you've probably never seen in that color. And it's got a blue window. These are all resin prototypes used for photo pictures before the cars were actually released and produced. Well, after the resins are approved, they start building the molds. You start getting the samples for the actual metal castings. So that'll be sent in for approval also. And then they've already approved colors with the resin castings. So that's probably where they'd go with the finished product. But you can see they do change their mind occasionally. And on the production line, they'll take and they'll go ahead and do paint samples. And it's approved. And they start to assemble. You'll see a lot of them will have they call Barbie pink interiors. Basically, they haven't picked the color for the interiors yet because you can see on the resins they don't have interiors. So a lot of times they just make them in the Barbie pink, unless it's the case of this Jaguar. It does have an interior because it's convertible, but so a lot of the first production ones you'll see will have a odd colored base and interior if it's plastic. Won't be plated, won't have any detail. Well, after they get that approved, you have the finished product. But sometimes the car's been out for a couple years. Well, that's a different story. Then they start to process, you know, they change colors on the cars every so often. And they'll have to make paint samples of what the new color will look like. And they'll use a regular car, paint it up, put tampos on it, and send it in for approval. This is the Datsun 2000 or 200 SX. So they'll do a concept paint, have it approved or not. We'll do that with several cars. So here you have the front running Fairmont Gold. Neither of these were approved colors for production, so they never made it. Let's see what was approved. That same gold. So this is a production model. They didn't go with the blue, they went with this gold. Changed the tampo color to go with the gold a little bit. So that's kind of how they pick and choose colors a little bit. They just review and see if it looks good. I actually think it looks better in the blue. Maybe it's because I haven't seen a lot of it. But that's kind of what they did. Send it in for approval. If it's not approved, then you don't get them in that color. Same thing goes for special events. So this Tall Rider was made for specifically a convention type of promo, but it was not really approved and they discarded it. not only do they do that with the cars, it's also the packaging that they do that with. You see, this is a prototype packaging. Came out of the Larry Wood collection. So we got a glare. Let's take the glare off. So these are not prototype cars, just the package. So they're experimenting a little bit with packaging. And this one we'll leave in there. But yeah, see, they actually went from paper to a plastic package, which is pretty interesting. It did turn yellow over the years. An odd concept, but paper is kind of the thing of the past and plastic is the future. But they obviously didn't go with this. Looks neat now though. So not just the main line gets approval like that either. We also have the 100% line. So this has a blank base on it. But they do it with all of their production cars. And of course all my stuff is verified. This one came from Bruce Pascal. He signed it right there. It's authentic. So I know what I'm talking about. But that would be prototype Deora from the 100% Hot Wheels line. And it would come with Deora 2 also. So tell me what you think about prototypes. Prototype resin, finished product. This would be a 2004 first edition tuned 63 Corvette. Leave all your comments, all kinds of agreements, disagreements. The other further note, I do not consider the Redline Club printed prototypes to actually be prototypes because they were used to sell. You know, you don't make a prototype to sell, you use it for approval, for production. These new printed prototypes are just printed for production, if you ask me. Let me know your thoughts. Anything you have to add. I mean, I have a lot of prototypes. Maybe I should show more often. Alright, thanks for watching. Bye-bye.